I just want to say I'm very happy to be here today. We've got a phenomenal guest, a karaoke, I don't want to say enthusiast, a master.
It's an art.
A phenomenal sales rep, leader, husband, and just an all-around great friend in person, Ryan Larsen.
Let's go.
Happy to have you here. Ryan, kind of jumping into it, we always love to give a little backstory on kind of like where everyone's from and stuff like that. We're gonna go to like your origin story, and we're gonna move forward. So,
okay.
From Salem. Born.
Basically, I was born in Payson, right? Like everybody,
Hey,
but
me
then
too.
moved to Salem in kindergarten. So like basically born and raised.
Okay, cool. So born and raised Salem. When did you start wrestling?
Kindergarten.
Okay. So Salem roots, wrestled in high school, served a mission. Really quick, just for everyone kind of like watching and tuning in at home.
Yeah.
Was sales something that you always thought like, hey, I'm eventually going to like become a So walk us through that. Like kind of what was your first like introduction to sales? Like, was it something you were thinking about? Obviously no, but like, and then is it something you ended up wanting? Like, yeah.
What got you
into it?
So essentially, with sales, I always made fun of the sales bros. I was just kind of like, man, going out and knocking doors, not for Jesus. That sounds kind of like, not a recipe for success.
Yeah.
I was very proven wrong. And so what kind of got me into it? I mean, Oakland, right? Just good friends since 7th grade. Saw that scrawny little kid playing basketball back in 7th grade, and I was the annoying little kid. So
shout out to Scrawny Buckets.
Scrawny Buckets, match made in heaven right there.
Dude, I saw a picture of you though, like pretty recently, from when like your high school days. Dude, you were tiny.
Small? Like, are you saying like freshman Ryan?
I don't know.
106 Ryan?
There was like 3 people, and you were like in the middle of it, and there was like but you were
8th grade.
That was 8th
grade.
Okay.
Not high school.
Okay, I don't know.
Look bald, right? I was completely shaven head.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I was shocked. I was like, that's the same person. That's my Ryan Larsen.
I'm 200. I'm 205. I'm about 60 pounds bigger than senior year of high school. So
that's crazy.
I'm like 1.5 of that picture that you saw.
Well, dude, I like you still had the same killer smile. It was still just like little wry,
buck teeth, a little yellow.
Oh, but I'm sorry, I couldn't have cut us off. What were we saying before?
How I got into sales.
Yeah.
Got into sales. So basically, my path to sales was a little weird. It wasn't I wasn't recruited very traditionally. Oakland, I mean, I always knew kind of Oakland like wanted me to do it, but like he was also like, because I was doing concrete, right? I did concrete it throughout high school, and then got back from a mission doing the same thing. And while I was there, I was doing a lot of work out of town, and I mean, I was doing all right. But I felt like I was just surrounded by losers, right? Like that's just kind of how it was, right? There's only one guy I wanted to be like, Dallin Carter, the boss owner of Armor Construction, right? He's the only guy I want to be like. And so
shout out to Dal. Is he still doing it?
Yeah. So yeah, he still owns Armor Construction. He's I don't know, he's what, 50 years old, and that dude spends probably $100,000 a year on hunting trips alone, right? And like he's living his best life, and because I really enjoyed the hard work and being able to work with my hands. But yeah, I just felt like I was surrounded. No, I wasn't surrounded by people I wanted to be like, right? Mm-hmm. And they say you're like the 5 people you're around the most.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the alcoholic who is unfaithful to his wife and makes no money. And so I pushed out, went out on my own, started doing concrete and as a self-employed. Last year, actually, world fell apart. I froze 2 pickleball courts, $40K in the hole, didn't know how to. And then I was like stressing out, brand new marriage, right?
How long were you guys married at that point?
A year. Right. I've put Sadie through hell for our first 2 years of marriage. Rolling a car 4 months in, 90 miles an hour, and then freezing pickleball courts, and then this summer, was no cakewalk. But
one of the things that I think you do really, really well though is like when you go through the eye of the storm, you come out of it like better than anyone I've ever seen.
I try to. I mean,
like no, like something big or bad will happen, and you generally keep like a very steady attitude, and then you kind of just go out and you're like, hey, I gotta get back to work, gotta make it happen.
Yeah, that's sending Sadie home like end of summer because she was having health issues, and I'm just like, I gotta keep pushing through.
Well, no, jumping back to the concrete part, like I remember when you like when this froze over and you're like, hey, like I am gonna come out and sell. Mm-hmm. Kind of like I've never asked you like we like obviously we kind of talked like, oh yeah, this is great, like making that. Was there ever like, oh, I don't know if like this jumping into sales is like the right choice, or like was this like
it was. I didn't know when I went on the Blitz, right? Oakland called me up right before the Blitz, and he's like, hey, you want to do it? And I was like, I'm desperate now, right? Like I gotta do something. And so, and I probably left the Blitz thinking I'm not going to do it. And then it was like over the week, I was just thinking, I'm like, hey, if I actually do every day right, could make some good money. And I enjoyed way too much hanging out with you guys. So that's what pushed me over the edge. But
dude, when it was me, you, and Oak out on that preseason Blitz, that was a good time.
Yeah, it was good stuff, right?
Yeah, just a couple dudes going to BJ's Brew House and going and getting Andy's ice cream.
Good old Andy's. Best frozen custard.
Dude, oh, man, I wish they had an Andy's.
That jackhammer.
Oh, dude. I don't know why isn't Utah, why isn't there a place in Utah that has like ice cream on that par, dude?
I've been finding one that's actually close.
Where?
Like Freddy's right here in Provo.
Okay, I gotta go try it.
Go try some Freddy's. See what you think.
Dude, I've been like cheating with way low quality ice cream lately. I've been going to Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen. You were telling me about that apple pie mixer.
The Reese's Pie Shake.
That one is the Reese's Pie.
Yeah, and if Dairy Queen's watching, you owe me for shouting you out. No, I'm
not a sponsor yet.
Yeah, no, exactly. But so just in really quick, like if you could like talk to someone that had just like is maybe like, oh, I'm thinking about coming out and selling for a summer, but they're like, I kind of have a good gig where I'm at now. Like what would you say to someone like that? That's kind of like, maybe I should jump out and do it, or maybe I should like, would you say jump, or would you be like, hold off?
Jump, because sales is a life hack. It's like you could literally create money out of nothing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when I was doing concrete, I had a decent gig, and I mean, that was one sale that I would make each, like, but like one sale would be my whole day's wage that I can make in 15 minutes and then on the next door, right? Yes. It's really cool to think that you can just wake up every day. If you do today right, make $2-3 grand, run it back again the next day.
And one of the things that I think you got really quick though is that concept. Like, yeah, I remember when we were out, it was like maybe your first day and you were shadowing me and you're like, hey dude, you should have just told him higher numbers. You're like,
I was just like, say higher numbers and you make more money.
I was like, dang dude, maybe like I need to like, yeah, I do need to say higher numbers on the next one.
You started at the minimum.
Yeah. You need to push it to, I was just like, dude, I need to show this guy a sale. I want to make sure that he thinks this is good. But yeah, no, but like one of the things I think that you knew, and did you learn that in concrete, that you're just like, hey, if I just like state, hey, this is where our value's at, like a lot of people will conform to that.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of learning from you guys, right? Like how it's like, I had to make them perceive that this was a good value product. And so then if I just perceive that the value is higher, then they're going to also perceive it the same. I don't know if that sounds incoherent what I just said, but
no, I loved it. And I honestly think the best sales rep like truly believe that the service they're pushing out is like helping. And I think a lot of times when reps start out, they get in this rabbit hole of, oh, I don't know if I believe in this, or is this a scam, or stuff like that. But I think the people that like actually go into it with like, oh no, I'm helping these people today, then they end up being way, way more successful.
Yeah, it helped when Oakland told me, he's like, hey man, selling is helping in every sense of the word, right? Just, it's always, selling's helping.
100%. And kind of when you were starting out, just for like, let's say a first year's watching this, and they're going through, what was something that kind of clicked for you when you were like, oh, I started jumping up and selling more once I learned this principle or this thing?
Once I learned not to be bullheaded and just say what Dawson says.
Hey, no, but like, that's a tough thing though.
Quit trying to put my own spin on it, right? My personality could still show through even if I'm applying exactly what other very successful sales reps like you and others had been saying.
Well, and the funny thing is, I think every sales rep goes through that. Yeah. Like everyone goes into sales and they're like, "Oh, I'm likable, I'm funny, like but then
I can do it better."
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, I think you can, but it's like out the gate though, like it's like learn the layup, learn the free throw, make sure you can like get those like close shots, and then we can start doing the trick shots from three, or like the fadeaway jumper.
Yeah, exactly. That was hard for me to learn. I was doing good for the blitz, and then I came back. Right, how I took that month off, like after the blitz before the season started.
I could feel your commitment though.
Got all confused.
Your commitment was way higher as soon as like the season started and stuff like that. And did you like the blitz? I generally don't like to like let people go on blitzes, but you were a person that I was like, I'm gonna make the exception.
I liked the first week, and then when everybody actually showed up later, because like there's the first week with just us three, you, me, Oak.
Yeah.
But then the second week when everybody else showed up, all of a sudden it felt like the pressure was on a little bit more.
More eyes are watching.
I didn't like it very much.
Well, and what's funny too about like a sales journey is I think everyone likes to paint it like they like to like once they are as successful as you are now, where you've weathered a summer, you've had multiple big weeks, days, and stuff like that. Like we love to all remember it with like colored glasses.
Yeah.
But in reality, there was some tough stuff that everyone has to go through to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so obviously you made a big jump. So when you came back from the blitz, I could tell you were locked in. You started selling a lot more. But I even felt like there was another point in the summer when all of a sudden like something new clicked in your head and you kind of like went and started like ripping at a like even a higher level than you were.
Going into good old Lytle, Texas.
Hey.
And Natalia.
Yeah. Did they give you like, who got the ticket from one of them? Was it Oak?
What ticket? Oh, me and Stockton got tickets.
You know, you guys got them in Garden Ridge.
That was in Garden Ridge. I don't know. I just got the cops called on me constantly.
And with getting the cops called on you and stuff, now like let's say a rep's nervous about that. They're going in, they're like, oh, I'm a little nervous that like the cops might show up. Like, is it that scary of an experience? Is it that bad if a cop ever rolls up on you?
No, the cops are usually chill, unless, I mean, the only time that I was like, what on earth just happened was when the lady popped the shotgun at me. Full fire.
Wait, she shot it?
She fired.
No way, at you?
Yeah, not at me.
Okay.
So I knocked on her door. She tried to talk to me through the Ring camera. I just ignored it. Right?
Hey, that's a good plug. If you're listening, that's what you should do.
You ignore you make them come out and talk to you, right? So then I went across the street because I knew she wasn't going to come out. And like as I was leaving though, she was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just the bug guy, right? Helping everybody out." Knocked across the street, they didn't answer, and I was going back across the street to talk to her neighbor right next door, and as soon as I rolled up onto the driveway, she shot her shotgun. And I was like, "You okay?" "You stay off my property." I was like, just want to make sure, you're still alive,
Hey,
you're still good.
At least she gave a warning shot.
I guess at least she gave me a warning shot.
Oh, that's crazy.
But, so... maybe be scared when the shotgun comes out, but other than that, you should be good.
I love it. So, right, talk to me really quick too. So, I mean, you had an entrepreneurship spirit since I like met you, like even before you were in sales and stuff like that. Where did that start? Was that like a family member got you into that? Was that like you read something, saw something? Like what kind of sparked that in you that are like, oh, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur?
Well, I don't know where it kind of came from. I mean, when I was 5, I wanted to be the dog walker, right? Get as many dog like throughout the town, but then nothing really happened after that because like my whole family, has been a do good in school, go to school, get your degree, work for someone, work up the ladder kind of mindset, and I just was the black sheep, didn't want to do it. I mean, my dad's an HR director at a school district, right? I was very much expected to go to school.
And there was no one in your like extended family that was like, oh, like maybe you should.
All the successful people in my extended family are doctors and stuff like that.
Really?
It's not like someone who went off, branched out on their own. I didn't have any Greg Romneys or Dawson Scotts or throughout my family. If they didn't go to school, they were probably the losers, actually. So I was like the black sheep.
Grandma's like, you gotta go back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then Grandma really didn't like it when she was like, you're going to Texas to knock doors? Come on, have some respect for yourself.
Well, it's funny how everyone has that perception that like it's like, oh, whoa, like knocking doors. And it's funny when you're out in Texas. In Utah, I feel like more people are kind of like, you hear it more and stuff like that. But in Texas, it's funny how they look at you and they're like, what are you doing here?
I know, but they get more door knockers than anybody anyway. Like,
yeah, it's funny though.
It's weird how it works.
Yeah. Huh, that's interesting. Okay, well, cool. And talk to me too really quick. You became really good at like picking up on closes and when to apply them and that stuff. What was a close you learned this past year that you're like, oh, this is like my favorite one. It's my bread and butter. I like to use it in these situations.
I mean, I feel like one that really helped me when I was helped elevate was just applying a lot more bandwagoning, right? Any objection that it was like, hey, they totally felt the exact same way, right? Let me tell you how they overcame it, right? Let me tell you what they found that actually why they like this product, why they like the bug juice,
100%. Well, and I feel like the bandwagon does a really good job of making it feel like applying pressure without it feeling like a pressure situation. It's like, oh yeah, like everyone else is doing it, you should come on.
Yeah.
And I think learning to use that at multiple parts of the pitch is when you start to get really, really good.
Throughout the whole thing rather than at the end or at the beginning.
Yeah, because like if you just do it at the end or at the beginning, people are like, you kind of need it in there with like the meats and the potatoes and everything else.
The facts tell, but the stories sell, right? Stories of all the neighbors.
Amen to that.
Get it in.
I love that. And so bandwagoning is also big. Was there any others that you're like, oh, I like this one too? Or
pregnant pause. When you just stop.
This is a big one. Do you have a story when you used it when it was like, oh, this was
two? I got two. One was in Nephi here in Utah, and then the other one down in Texas.
Explain what it is for everyone listening to really quick.
So pregnant pause is basically after you close, you shut your mouth until they say something. When you got that contract out and you have it in front of their face, you're not saying a word. It's like, because if you interrupt it.
When you go to close, you close them, and then you don't say anything until.
Yeah, no more talking. I remember I was actually showing, I was either Jimmy or David Terrell. I think it was Jimmy. Is Jimmy the younger one?
Yeah, Jimmy's the younger one.
So just showing, I was Jimmy's first day on the doors, and I was like, if you say a word after I close, I'll kill you.
Did he follow suit?
He followed suit. He also started too with his like hat on backwards, and I'm like, hey man, I respect the look, but you're not when you're following me today. Not right now.
Yeah, you're like tuck your pants in.
Tuck your pants in. And I'm like the least formal guy ever, but like, I need to make these guys think that I know my bugs,
100%.
I'm a bug nerd. So yeah, I was in good old Nephi, and I felt like I was having a good, like, is the start. Could tell it's like the start of a good day. I was probably at 4 for the day or something. Yeah, I was trying to close like 4 more that day. I ended up with 8 that day. It's my first like day while I was like, whoa, more than 4. Like, this is cool.
I love the Instagram picture after that day that they posted with you and your dog.
Me and the dog.
Yeah,
Ryan's got that dog in him. It's good.
What dog was that?
It's my friend's dog, Bruiser. We were actually out welding, making a wakeboard winch. And all of a sudden his dog came in, and my friend was welding, and I just picked up his dog, and he turned around, and I'm just holding it, so he snapped the pic.
I love that. Ryan can wakeboard for anyone listen to this. I was very impressed when we went out.
It could be better.
Huh? No, dude,
But
I mean, if you can be better, dude, what does it say about me? I mean, I can like see the board. Hey
man, you can get up. I've spent some time with people where it's 45 minutes of just the boat going in circles because they can't get up.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I cut you off. Sorry.
Pregnant pause
story. In Nephi, go.
In Nephi, this lady, and she's just like, oh, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I was just like, what time works better for you, morning or afternoon? And I just holding the iPad in front of her face, so she just click whichever time slot she wanted. And it was probably 45 seconds of just silence. and she's just like, yeah, I want it. And then signed up, right? And then another one in Texas where I did the same thing. It was a Hispanic family, but I could tell they were very fluent. He was a home builder, and He had a big old home. Anyway, I pregnant paused him, right? Just one works better for you. And they just start mouthing off to each other in Spanish, thinking I don't understand. And we got the credit card, so we're good.
Love it. Well, and it's kind of it's a nervous situation. Usually, I think in most times you're used to your family or your friends reacting pretty quickly when you ask them to do something. But when you're going in and you're asking someone to like buy something and you're a stranger, it's funny how people are just like, and they'll sit there.
Do I trust this guy?
Yeah. But like giving them the time to react or respond is huge. And I think learning to read your customer is something big that happens over the summer.
Yeah.
Like first you get down the pitch and you just say the same robotic things, but then after a while you're like, oh no, I need to be like gauging.
How can this be best for them?
Yeah. And do you feel like over the summer you found things like during the pitch that you were like, oh, I could, like when people started to do this, I started to read that like this is what they meant, or.
Yeah, I mean, usually like, I don't know, when they say, oh, I don't have bugs, I just know it's a lie because you're in San Antonio, Texas. You've got a lot of bugs. But I don't know, I feel like I've always been good at like reading people's like emotions with stuff, but I've never really had to care.
Yeah.
But now, I got to sell people the way they like to buy. Right. So.
Well, and a salesman I think is a good listener, but I also think they know when like sometimes people will bring up things and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to kind of like disregard that thing. Another thing when they talk, I'm like, oh, we are going to like, I'll spend a lot of time.
Like, don't give their objection weight. Right. Just be like, that was dumb. It doesn't matter that you can't afford it, right? You actually can.
Yeah. I always love turning that one on its head and they're like, oh, I can't afford it. And you're like, oh, that's exactly the way you should do it.
Yeah. It's on discount.
Yeah. I'm saving you money, bro.
Instead of $299, we're getting it for $169 quarterly.
Yeah. You're like, where's that credit card?
just what works better for you, debit or credit?
I love it. And so kind of with, so a lot of people watching this are going to be first year reps. They're going to be second years, stuff like that. If you could go back and whisper something in like first day out in the doors, like your ear, what would you say? Like, what would you be like? Oh, you need to do this.
Just be a sponge, learn, be malleable, be coachable. And sales is a life hack. It's a money hack.
Oh, 100%. Well, dude, it's crazy how like it teaches you what you're worth. Like it shows you the value of like your time, your energy, and all that stuff.
I could never go back to being like $20 an hour. Like that'd kill me.
Well, no, like when I kind of like the unknown sometimes of like, oh, dude, is this gonna be like am I gonna make a couple $1,000 like right now, or is this gonna be like? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, oh, dude, shoot, like
I made $100 today.
I got a
go right.
I got a Gatorade a couple hours ago.
And sometimes that Gatorade hits nice.
Oh, it does.
It's the best Gatorade you've ever had.
What's the best thing you ever got in the doors? Like someone like offering you food or a drink. Did you ever get like?
Oh, good old Nephi, Utah, closing a deal at good old 10:30 at night.
Down there you could just knock late, bro.
Yeah, but so I mean, they probably got me in at 10 o'clock, and I probably left at 10:45.
Let's go, dude.
And they fed me dinner of French toast. They fed me a French toast dinner, and they wanted me to set their daughter up on a date with one of my friends. That never happened. That was a contingency in the contracts technically, but
you didn't deliver on your side.
I didn't deliver on that part, but I delivered on the bug juice.
Let's go. And well, let's talk about being a night owl really quick. Like, I think a lot of guys have a hesitancy to be like, oh, I don't want to bug people like past a certain hour and stuff like that. I feel like you were always pretty comfortable to be like, oh, I'm still just going to keep going.
At first, I was just like, it's dark, bro. People don't want me here. Because, I mean, second day on the doors, the dude's trying to run me over kind of deal.
Like, I forgot about that story.
That's a story. That day was a day. Good, best 22nd birthday you'll ever have.
I forgot that it was your birthday, too. Oh, dude, there's so much to that story. That one's for another time. But that's a battle. And I feel like at the beginning of your sales journey, it's always like that. Like there's always like, I don't know, almost any journey. There's a huge obstacle. Yeah. You remember the first like 8 days like they were like a year.
Yeah, man. But yeah, eventually I'm just like, hey, I mean, I never would have cared somebody knocking at my door at 9 o'clock at night. Maybe I'd care a little bit more if it was a door-to-door guy, but if people are willing to run me over in the daytime, if they're also willing to run me over at night, it doesn't change anything, right? It really doesn't change much. So
well, and I feel like a lot of times it's not a real excuse.
Yeah.
Like people are like, oh, it's late, but they're like, it's the same person that would have been like, hey, like in the middle of the day, like, hey, I'm gonna like X or Y.
Like I'm already doing something. It's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a different objection, but the same kind of guy.
Yeah.
There's still gonna be your laydowns at 9 o'clock at night.
Well, what's interesting too is you get a way different demographic, kind of at that time. Like a lot of people
a lot more working class.
Yes, a ton more people are coming home, and so I think the people that learn to take advantage of that last 30, 45 minutes, like come out big in the end of the summer.
Yeah, that time adds up. And I'll admit, I mean, there was days where I was just like, there were hours that were spent out there that I wish I could have treated better, right? Yeah. But then there were also hours that I was like, I'm doing better than everybody else right now. Like,
being top of the leaderboard, there's something nice about that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just
when it's a good day, not only top in accounts, but also top in rev. You got to make sure that rev's up.
Yes. And talk to us a little bit about like pushing rev and CV and stuff like that. I feel like I always nicknamed you like the CV king.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think are the big things that like you need to do in order to like push your CV higher?
Say higher numbers.
That's it.
Well, just treat saying 160 is the same as you saying 119. It's the same thing. Like,
and I also think too, like I think with that, like understanding that your service is valuable. Yeah. I think a lot of times people feel guilty, like, oh, I don't want to overcharge them or stuff like that. But sometimes like people hear
they're getting a discount.
Oh, 1,000%.
It's supposed to be a $300 service, Doss.
Dude, $400 now with inflation.
Gotta love it.
No, but I think believing that you are pushing something that's a premium is really, really powerful.
Yeah, and it's helped, right? I mean, I'm selling the jellyfish lights right now. Currently, like, jellyfish by far is the most expensive one, and they're like, oh, but like trim lights, like, 2/3 the cost, and I'm just like, yeah, if you want something straight off the assembly line in China, So it's just like, if you just keep that, like, yeah, there's a reason it's better. The reason it's more is because it's better, right? You get what you pay for.
Well, and I think it's kind of like goes back to that whole like, what would you rather like have? Would you rather have like the Cadillac or the Hyundai? I mean, 9 times out of 10,
McDonald's or Ruth's Chris, baby.
Yes, and I think when you're selling, like obviously part of it is like the deliver of like what the product actually is.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of that too is like you believing in your brand.
Yeah.
And like just putting that value there, and kind of when you're going through and like. Because a lot of times in sales, you have to reassure the customer, like, no, this is higher. And the service that we do provide, I actually do believe is head over heels above it. Well, a lot of our competitors. But I think.
They don't even get the yard, man.
Yes. We'll get the yard. We'll get the eaves. Second story. Come on.
Yes, sir.
What are some things that you typically like to hit on when you are going through with a tough customer?
Yeah.
That like you're like, oh, this opens a lot of doors.
Like opens a lot of doors within the sale to like get it closed.
Yeah.
A lot of times it just depends on stuff like the geography, right? So I mean, when I was in Lytle, I was hitting scorpions and like just basically a specific bug types hard. If I was in like the upper end stuff where there really wasn't as many bugs because everybody's actually been taking care of themselves. Mm-hmm. It was like just pushing the premium, like that. It's the premium stuff. So I don't know, pushing to be adaptable with whatever you're saying. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but what I like about both those responses is one, you're reading the area, like the actual landscape, and then the other, you're reading the people.
Yeah.
And both of those situations are so important. People love to turn their minds off when they're knocking. Mm-hmm. And what you're showing with both those answers is like, no, you need to be like reading your pitch, the people, and the demographic, like.
Can't be on autopilot.
Yes.
There's been plenty of days where if there was a one stock, what did you guys call it? Like just a day with one sale or like 0 sales from Ryan, it was because I was on autopilot.
Hey, but I love seeing those days when it was like 8, 9, 10, like
those are good days.
Yes.
Those days are like, they don't feel like work either. You're like, man, this is a good day.
Well, it feels like a sport almost.
Yeah.
It feels like, yeah, dude, like I won the state championship.
Yeah. Too bad I never did. Took second. way to put a dagger in the heart.
I was throwing some salt.
Salt in the wound.
But so right, everyone that knows you, like the Bustos, they were like, oh on the cruise, they're like, we love Ryan. He's fun times. You're a guy that has funny stories. Like,
it's true.
They flock to you.
Yes.
Give me your best funny story from the summer.
From the summer. Funny story?
Yeah, give me something like it's gonna make us chuckle. I am
Well, a lot of them are funny now that I was like freaking out like that second day where the dude's trying to run me over with the side by side, and I'm like if I was carrying, I would have pulled kind of deal, right? Like he's swinging at me and trying to hit me with a side by side. So but now it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does that count or?
Yeah. No.
Okay. We'll start. We'll just do it by second day on the doors. You said later, but we'll do it now.
Okay, let's do it.
So I mean, it was a decent day. I don't know. I sold one, but I was good with it. No, I sold two that day. I sold two, and it was my second day ever. I was like, hey, good day. I made $400. I was like, it was a good day. Towards the end of the day, I mean, to follow Dawson's advice, you still knock on the no soliciting doors or whatever, right? I go to this one guy and he doesn't come out of his door to tell me, hey, get off my property. He drives in from the street on his side by side to come run me and the scooter over. And I'm just I was wearing brown pants that day, and there's a black tire mark on me because he hit me with his side by side.
Did he hit the scooter at all, or was it just you?
So the scooter was actually facing the right way so that it went underneath the carriage of it rather than under a tire. Oh. So that was good.
But it was close.
Right? And so I had to rip it up, and then I go up and I just go onto the street. He's like, get off my property or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm off. And then he's like, no, you got to go to your car. I drove down with Oakland. I don't have a car. I can't leave. And Oakland's not answering the phone. You're out teching or doing something. And I was just call her dude, what do you want me to do? And you came and you got me and picked me up, and I'm just cruising down the road. And the guy keeps just following me in his side by side. You're like, just drive, he'll stop eventually. And then, I had to get my last dig in, so I flipped him off right as he started to stop.
You're like, I'm gonna just escalate this.
And then he's right back up on my tail. And then a cop rolls up, or is either the cop or the HOA security guy. No one likes HOA guys anyway. Yeah. Right. He comes up and he's like, this dude, he can't be here. He's like, he's trespassing on my property. That neighbor. And I'm like, dude, free country. Free because of who? And I was like, well, military? I don't know. Jesus? Anyway, he was a nice Trump supporter. Because on the back of his side-by-side, it just had, Make America Great Again on it. And I was like, come on, man. We should be better. We do want to make America great again.
You're on my
Capitalism.
team.
Capitalism makes America great. Okay? Anyway, later that day, you picked me up. You're like, hey, come over here. Let's go hit these knot homes that Oakland hit because you were servicing one of his sales or something. And I start knocking or whatever. And it was dark now, right? This is where it's, people don't want to knock after dark. They should anyway. I knock on this guy, and he looks at me through the door, runs back, doesn't open the door, grabs his shotgun, and I just dipped. I was gone. And then I was like, okay, I'm done knocking today.
You're like, this is too much. You guys are trying to kill me.
I was like, this is day 2, and I'm already threatened with my life twice.
So, obviously, there's the fun stuff and different things like that.
Yeah.
What would you say, looking into the future, you're like, this is something I want to bring into next season, or oh, I'd like to make this change, or kind of
I feel like my biggest issue has been focus, right? When I feel like there's a lot of success to be had and a lot to do, right? I have an easy time to focus, but right, if it's been, heck, it's 3 hours into the day and not even close to a close so far, right? Sometimes I'll get distracted, right? So, I mean, I find that a lot with everything, right? With current jellyfish sales, I feel like I need to have the insurmountable amount of stuff where I'm like, there's just so much success to be had. Let's go. But towards the end, I was able to be a lot more focused and hey, we can pull sales out of anywhere. right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's a whole 3-week stretch where I just would knock 10 houses and I'd like, okay, not this area, right? Obviously I got to move where the fruit is, right? But the grass is never greener.
Oh, 1,000%. And focus is a tough thing because, like, we all get unfocused at times.
Yeah.
But finding when you're slipping or how to keep yourself a little bit like straighter is like, I think the key to that. And no, I even the fact that you're like, oh, like that's what I want to improve on. And you'll obviously smash it like out of the park. As far as like goals and stuff like that, do you typically go into like a like you're like, oh, like this is like, talk to me on that when you're setting like out on like your sales journey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you typically have like, oh, this is, what do you do?
I feel like it was never good for me when like my goal was like a number to hit of like, hey, I've got to sell 10 today, right? Like it always actually really stressed me out when it was like, hey, sell X amount, you get these shoes, which thank you for the shoes, by the way.
Dude, those boots.
You got to hit the boots. So that was always like stressing me out, right? I'd be like, it has to be like a good day. Like, cause I mean, 5,000 in revenue is not a ton of revenue, but like I've been pretty bipolar, right? I got to make sure it's where I was keeping the consistency. But it ended up working always a lot better when I was just focusing on inputs, right? Like, hey, if I'm actually doing it right, the deals will come. So focusing more on inputs of my goals, right? Making sure I'm doing X so that Y comes rather than focusing on Y. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, my grandpa, he was a sales rep for insurance, and he said his sales started to increase a lot when he wrote down everything he did in 15-minute increments throughout the day. Just because he was able to hold himself accountable and kind of be like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. But I think it's like it's almost the same thing. It's like, hey, just like making sure my inputs are like dialed, like focused. I'm in what I want them to be.
Yeah, because 2 + 2 is never not equaled 4, right? So if I'm always making sure I'm adding 2, it can, like, it could, outputs will come.
Well, and that's the cool thing too, is like a lot of times we try to make sales like mystical or magical, and it's at the end of the day, it's a system, and if you can plug yourself into it, do the right things are going to come out.
Yeah.
So I love it. Well, right. Is there one thing that you want to like leave BRD Nation with? That you're like, hey, like I want everyone to know X or Y or Z.
Well, within BRD Nation, or is this trying to also get the other people to the fold of BRD Nation?
Well, let's get people to the fold.
Let's get people to the fold, because I'll tell you what, right? BRD, it's actually I love these guys, right? I loved working with you. It's nice to know that you're the kind of guy that would sell your rental properties to make sure I get paid, right? You're BRD's full of down to earth, good, hardworking people, high level people that can help bring you up to higher levels. Because, right, I mean, heck, I remember on my mission, I thought making 90 grand a year would be a dream when I can do 80 grand in a summer, like, like in my first summer, right? You know what I mean? Like, I thought that would have been a dream. So being with high level people that can help pull you up and change your dreams and elevate you and your goals and everything. I rock with BRD.
And I think you're just someone that like, it's so easy to find people like that for you, because I think that's who you are. You're really good at like making sure it's a win-win situation for everyone that's involved. And I've seen that since like I first met you. I remember when we were playing, me and Ryan first met playing Xbox. Yeah. For playing some 2K in this office. Actually.
Right next door.
Yeah. We'll post the footage of the highlights of that game after this. No, but Rye, seriously, man, thanks so much for coming on. Hope a lot of people caught on to like the different things you were saying with focus. Some of the closes, I love the pregnant pause that we went over and other things. So hopefully everyone caught on to that. I learned a lot, and love you, brother.
Love you.